Hi guys, Dogo here with a new video, and this video is finally the first PvP guide video on this channel for The War Within. It will be a Enhancement Shaman PvP guide video for The War Within Season 1. If they might change something drastically before the Season 1 begins, I will be obviously updating the video, but for now, I don't think they're going to drastically change Enhancement Shaman, and I will be discussing about a few subjects. I'm going to talk about the stats you should go for, the gear that you can go for, and the Tierset if it's worth it to take, and which pieces you want to have for sure in Season 1. I'm going to talk about the builds. I have around 6 builds that I can talk about, but mostly I use only 3 of them, I would say daily, if I do play Enhancement Shaman, and the other 3s are way more situational, I would say. And then we're going to talk about the PvP talents. I'm going to talk about your place in the meta in 2v2, 3v3, solo QRBGs, and obviously I'm going to talk about solo shuffle. Then I'm going to talk about the rotation, which is also super important. So obviously that will be a subject that I encourage you guys to watch, because the rotation is different between those like builds that you're going for. And I'm going to talk about macros and tips and tricks that you are going for with your Enhancement Shaman. The things that I'm not going to talk too much about it is the embellishments and the gems that you can use, because I still need to test a lot of them. I'm going to make a separate video about it, but a more general video where I'm going to talk about every single gem and embellishments, and probably give you a indication on which specs, which classes should go for which embellishments and gems. So let's start right away with the video. Timestamps below, so if you want to jump in, jump out whenever you want, do so, but please do watch the whole video. It helps me as a creator as well, but I think a lot of the situations, a lot of the information is also spread out on the whole video, so hopefully you don't miss anything out of that. It will be a long video, so hopefully you get something to eat, something to drink. I don't know, but I think hopefully it will give you enough information to hop into PvP, rated or unrated, however you would like. So let's start right away about Enhancement Shaman, a word of information. A lot of PvP creators, content creators, are putting Enhancement Shaman on D tier, saying that it is the worst PvP spec out there. Right now, even below tank specs, and I would say that right now there are situations where obviously Enhancement Shaman are not that great. But from my testing, from what I've seen, I do feel like there is a slight potential about Enhancement Shaman that I'm actually very excited about. I think a lot of the things can be fixed with a lot of like little balancing here and there, and a bigger balancing on a few spells, but I'm not going to talk about it too much. But I would say that for me, in my eyes, it is not a D tier, and I think currently the worst spec is BM Hunter and not Enhancement Shaman. Enhancement Shaman, I think, is currently, in my eyes, C tier, maybe high, like mid to low B tier. But that doesn't mean that you should not main it. It does mean that you can put a bit more effort into it, because hopefully you will get a buff about Enhancement Shaman and probably make out of it way stronger than I would say someone that picks up Enhancement Shaman right now. It is also one of the hardest specs out there if you want to master it, so there is also a lot of fun by becoming better and better. Like a Fury Warrior, the skill ceiling and the skill floor is very much like close to each other, so obviously your enjoyment of improving will be a lot less than, for example, with an Enhancement Shaman. But I will be explaining everything throughout the video, and hopefully you do learn something about it. So, Enhancement Shaman right now. Which stats am I going for? Again, I'm saying I because I have a specific playstyle and specific builds I'm going for. So obviously, the stats are going to be suited for that playstyle. I am fully PvP geared right now. I have some enchants here and there, but very, very low budget because it's very, very expensive. But overall, I'm trying to go for haste. Haste is the one thing I'm going for, and it does feel way better to play with haste. Your Wind Fury damage is a bit more than usual because of haste. I'm going to talk about it as well a bit further with the builds. But haste is the thing that makes me have fun. I think I have around 17% haste, which is not a lot, but it's more than I would say a lot of classes are going to have, because they're going to go for mastery or crit, depending on the spec they're going, and versatility. My versatility currently is around 25%. We still want to stack that until 30% at least, and then you can be a bit more flexible. Mastery is still something you want to go for if you have no choice. It's always going to be nice to like get those Stormbringer procs, to have also Storm Blast, and also obviously the resets on Storm Strike, and we also have the increase all fire, frost, and nature damage you deal with. Hopefully they do add physical damage in the future, but right now it is only fire, frost, and nature. And it does add up on the damage department. If you're doing an elemental blast, it adds up with each other, so it's a good thing. And also like your lightning bolts, tempest, if you're playing Stormbringer, like I said, it's going to be quite fun, so I'm going to talk about it as well. The weapons, obviously, I'm taking the weapons I can, but right now mastery or haste, depending on what you want, you can play with a haste or weapons, haste or mastery. And I do go for the alacrity trinket, but you could also go for the badge to have like a 1 minute CD go with your doom winds, which is a 1 minute CD now. So I'm going to talk about it as well in the build section. So there is also a possibility for that, but right now I did use alacrity because it was a bit easier to manage, because I didn't really know which build I was going for. So I just bought whatever I can as first, like a all-rounder like alacrity trinket. So good enough for me. So, Tierset, very important, very important. You can see it on the adventure guide. You have the Tierset here, which is the Forgotten Reservoir, and like the name is suggesting, it is a very much restoration shaman feel. It is not that... I'm not going to wear that. I'm going to wear it, but I'm not going to show you. I'm going to have a transmog, because this is really ugly in my eyes. My friend finds it quite cool. He plays Restoration Shaman, so I guess that's why. But that's too much water to me, so it does scream Restoration Shaman to me. And maybe the Dwarven model is not that good for that. I prefer this one, for example. So there is that. So let's talk about the tier set. I think that's more important. We have the 2 set, which is Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Ice Strike, and Crash Lightning, which is all like your... builders, kind of. Lava Lash is not really a builder, but I think it's a good word to use. Builders that you already have for your Maelstrom weapon generation. They are going to be augmented by 15%, and your 4 set, which is activating Feral Spirit, summons an extra Feral Spirit. I do feel like it also works on the Stormbringer talent, which is node, which is Tempest summons a nature Feral Spirit. So I think it doubles down on the Feral Spirit. If I'm not mistaken, it works like this from the beta. It might be nerfed, but it worked like this. And the pieces are quite good, I would say, because you have like a decent amount of versatility, but they're like always with a catch. For example, the head has crit mastery, which is good. Mastery being like the top like stat. Crit is a bit useless, but it's still going to be the one that you're going to take. You're going to take the head, you're going to take the shoulders, which is the haste versatility one. You are going to take the versatility crit on your chest. Unfortunately, your hands are going to be crit haste, which is not going to be something you're going to take. And the best piece is the legs, which you should rush ASAP, which is mastery haste. This is going to be your first swap on the catalyst. So the catalyst is going to open, you're going to take your legs, you're going to buy first item legs, and then you're going to convert it. So since we don't have a vault anymore, that's the only way you can get a PvP tier set. Or if you get 1600, you also get a token, if I'm not mistaken. It's still there, so that is also an option. But yeah, haste mastery, it's perfect. You don't have a lot of haste on the tier set, so you're going to have to compensate it with off pieces, or with your weapons, or with your gems and enchants, if possible. But right now, those are the 4 pieces I'm going to take. You could also just say like let's have chest be purely a stat stick, so you do take your hands, which is not that great, crit haste. but then you would have a bigger piece with the right stats. So you could maybe go for versatility haste, or maybe a haste mastery if you feel like you have enough versatility. So that's also a possibility with crafting gear. So there is that. You also have the possibility to combine two pieces. You can say, look, you don't have a waist, you don't have a feet, you could actually go for the reinforced, like that. Those are PvE pieces, and I do believe that it's not possible to have a PvP increase, so you should not go for that, but you can always do that if you're doing also some PvE. You can take, for example, belt, you can take the feet, and it would give you a small boost at your highest secondary stat. Now that's like not mandatory, I think it's more for PvE, but I wanted to give you that information away so you could have like two tier sets pretty much working together. But in PvP I think it doesn't work because you have to, like, the crafting is very special, so I'm going to make a video about that as well. Anyways, so those are the tier sets, you know which ones you should go for. I think the tier set is very good right now. It's nature, like, again, Feral Spirits is always nice, but we'll have to see how it works in PvP, but from my understanding, it is always going to be a like a damage increase on the whole like fight. So always go for the tier set. Now builds. This is going to be the longest part of the video, I think. So hold on tight. I have 6 builds that I can show you guys. Not all are equal. Some are very bad because I don't like totemic. Some are very good because I do like that playstyle. I'm going to show you the main build I play, which is this one, and the other one which is very similar, which is the physical build. That's how it's called, the physical build, which basically it's also lightning build because you're also playing around your tempest, or around your lightning bolt, and you're playing around your like storm strike damage with all those procking on your storm strike, and obviously your wind fury with your doom winds being also a very big factor. I'm going to talk really quickly about the class tree. Class tree doesn't change too much, so I'm going to talk one time on the class tree and that's it. We're taking every single thing possible to increase our defensives, which is Astral Shift with the reduced CD, or you can say, look, I'm fighting only one time, so you can go for Astral Bulwark. That is also an option. We have a slow, which is way slower than in Dragonflight, which is now 60% movement speed slow with Froststruck, which is quite good with the mobility creep we have currently. We also have the possibility to have Seasoned Winds, which was a PvP talent. Now it is very accessible throughout the class tree. And there is like a slight iteration where you could take it out and go for Totemic Projection. So you have an easier time to have your Wind Rush totem placed and dispersed. So you can always like move it out and you can just move with the Wind Rush, which is good. And it also like removes snares. So that's also nice. So every time you're going to move the totem, it's going to remove the snares. So it's interesting though. You can only move it like once, but it's always going to be nice to be able to kite, especially. But right now I do play Seasoned Winds more because whenever I'm playing versus a caster, I feel way tankier, and I also just win more matches or 1v1s or random BGs. At least I have more fun with it. In arenas, you're going to have a lot of like impact as well. If you're playing versus a Destruction Warlock with Chaos Bolt, you're going to interrupt it, and now you're like tanky for the whole match, for example. So for whole match, it's 18 seconds, but most likely they're going to Chaos Bolt again, so you will have like a ×2 damage reduction on it, and it's going to be stacking every single time, so it's a good thing as well. Ancestral Guidance, very important because you can also put it on your macro. It's something you can put and forget, kinda. It does heal a lot whenever you are actually doing your burst, but that's it. It's like it's a good heal for what it is, but it's not like the best heal out there. So I'm not really counting too much on it to survive, but it's like a good like pad healing for your team or for your arena match, for example. We have Thunderstorm with Traveling Storms, which I use to push people off ledges, for example, or I push people off me, or I push people off my friends, for example. So it can save them a lot of time to cast. You can play with a caster, for example, and have a lot of like impact with Traveling Storms. In solo queue RPG, how many times you can actually knock people away from you or away from your teammates, but also into the abyss, which basically just like one hit KOs them, which is one of the most fun things to do in random BGs or just in solo queue RPGs. I really like that. And overall, we take every single talent to improve our survivability, which is elemental warding, nature's guardian, and in general, we also have some kiting potential with thunderous paws and spirit walk. There is also a way where you can play with gust of wind, which is also strong, especially in open world, because they can knock you, and if you cannot really survive the fall, at least gust of wind can help you, and spirit walk will not. But if you're playing versus a balanced druid in arenas, for example, in solo shuffle, it's always nice to have spirit walk, because if for some reason the healer is next to you and he gets root beams, you don't want to get root beam as well, so just spirit walk away and you're good to go. You can just go back to dealing damage, because root beam is actually affecting you more than you would know. You have also cleanse spirit, which is also important. You can put it on a help harm macro with your purge, so you can at least remove curses from warlocks, but also hexes and whatnot. So it's a very good thing to have as well. There are a few changes that you can do. For example, you can take this and this out, like enhance imbues and assassination winds, to get like healing stream totem elemental resistance, to get more defensives versus mages, for example, or elemental shamans or whatever. That's possible. I kind of want healing stream totem to heal a bit more these days, and right now it heals for little to no healing, so for now I'm not really using it, but potential is that it's getting buffed. So if it gets buffed, it becomes very much something you would want to have as an enhancement shaman, but right now I'm not really playing with that too much. And there is that pretty much. Yeah, let's talk about the spec tree and then the hero towns. Now I'm going to show you the multiple builds. So this tree is pretty much the physical build tree. Obviously, we take everything that has to do with Storm Strike, everything that has to do with Wind Fury, everything that has to do with, I would say, your Frost Shock and your Ice Strike. It's pretty interesting because we're not playing with Primordial Wave, and I kind of understand that Primordial Wave is not that good, because again, your Lightning Bolt is interesting, but I found like having 2 points in Legacy of the Frostwitch helping me a lot on the physical damage dealing part on Wind Strikes and Storm Strikes whenever I get a proc on deeply rooted elements, which is more effective whenever you have more haste, by the way. It's interesting, right? I think also having the resets on your Storm Strike, which you can also have with only 1 point, by the way, but I like also to have like the 20% increased damage on Frost and physical. So my Frost Shock does more damage, my Ice Strike does more damage, my Storm Strikes in general are doing more damage because of that, so I do like to play that. And Primordial Wave is more like a on-hit burst with like Primordial Wave into a Lightning Strike, and that's it. It's not even that good because again, you need to have the Maelstrom before you're using it. If you're using it, you don't have the Maelstrom, they can just like dispel Flame Shock, and then you're going to have to reapply Flame Shock, which is a loss of a GCD pretty much with this build. And overall, what I would say is why does it work a bit better right now than in Dragonflight is that Doomwinds is a 1-minute CD, which you can pair up now with Shamanism, which is Heroism is a 1-minute CD with a 20% increase of haste. It's a PI pretty much because it's only 10 seconds, but it's really cool because again, every minute you have like around 35% haste, even more, like 40% depending on like situations and whatnot, or like procs from your weapons, for example, because you also have like enchants like Storm Rider's Fury that you can play because it's not that like expensive right now. And having more haste makes it way more smooth, but also will just add more damage with your Wind Fury because you have more melee hits. And it's also very important to get Wind Fury damage higher. The more Amaze Mastery you have, the less Wind Fury damage you will have in general because your haste is really low. But the more haste you have, the more Wind Fury damage you will have because you have more hits. It is what it is. I prefer to have Mastery a bit more important with Wind Fury, but it is just not the case right now because it's physical damage. I think in general with Doomwinds, if you can pair it with a badge, for example, and with your heroism, with your, I would say, blood, like not the blood rage from orcs. I don't know how it's called anymore because I'm not playing orc. You can do a lot of damage with it. Obviously, the problem with Wind Fury and Doomwinds is that it's a 8-second window which, to be fair, a 5-second kidney can just like ruin your day pretty much. But it is what it is. Like, you can always try to bait it. You can always try to use it as a bait and then do your damage with, let's say, a good well-placed Ascendance or deeply rooted elements. But that's it. And then the variation on that build is that you can play the physical build with Ascendance. It's the same build, but with Ascendance. And Ascendance is something cheesy. Again, unfortunately, it is cheesy because it's a 3-minute CD. It would just not be cheesy if it was a 2-minute CD. So if one day they put it on a 2-minute CD, I think that would be the norm. It's very strong because you can proc Tempest out of that because of Thorium's Invocation. So every time you have like more than 5 Maelstrom weapons, or at 5 Maelstrom weapons, it's going to consume the Maelstrom weapon to deal your damage with Lightning Bolt or your Tempest or Chain Lightning, but it will be Tempest or Lightning Bolt, and it does a lot of damage. So if you have like Tempest procs and it does like a 1.5 million damage with Tempest, like even the Wind Strike does also a lot of damage, and the Wind Fury damage, and also the melee strikes. But the Tempest as well is going to give you the extra oomph needed to like eliminate someone, right? And I like to play Ascendance. It just is a 3-minute CD. It just is easy to stun you and fear you, and then that's over. Like, Ascendance is gone. But I kind of like the playstyle. I kind of wish it was a 2-minute CD. I kind of wish Deeply Rooted Elements was a bit more reliable. But you have 2 ways to play. I play way more Ascendance right now than Deeply Rooted Elements because I don't have enough haste. If I have more haste, it would be a bit more reliable. But I think with full Conquest gear, if you're thinking like ahead, I do feel like Deeply Rooted Elements will be better in Soul Shuffle, where matches are going to be a bit longer. So having those like lucky procs, because it is luck at the end of the day, it's RNG, you can really end up like destroying someone because of that proc at the right time. For example, if he has no defensives and you don't have CTs, they might not even think they are in danger, but once you have the proc, they are in danger. So I kind of like that playstyle, and I do hope there is a buff coming, but that is the playstyle I'm going for. Let's talk about the hero towns before going for another build, because it's very important to assess one time the situation. Tempest is very strong. Tempest is interesting. Tempest has multiple ways you can play it. You can play it, for example, if it's a single target encounter. Stormswell just gives you endless Maelstrom. So every time you're going to Tempest, it's going to give you Maelstrom weapons, and you also have like 35% chance to refund 3 Maelstrom weapon stacks. You also have another chance, 20% chance to refund Maelstrom weapon stacks spent on Lightning Bolt. So basically, you can have like Tempest procs upon Tempest procs upon Tempest procs. You even have Awakening Storms, which again, every 3 times you will get a Tempest. So you could have like 2 procs of that. Tempest, you get a proc of Awakening Storms, boom, you have a second Tempest, and you can have like literally like a back-to-back Tempest, which is again deadly for a lot of people. I think the bane of Enhancement Shaman are kind of heals because you don't have a mess effect, but in arenas you're going to pair up with a Fury Warrior or with an Arms Warrior or even with a DH. You can pair up with something that has an MS effect, and it's going to be quite good. If you're playing with someone that has no MS effect, it's going to be quite painful to down like healers or being able to win without like big CC chains. You also have some damage reduction with Tempest, so every time you're going to do that, it's 10% less damage. I don't think it's nerfed in PvP, I didn't check, but if it might, it is. Conductive energy, I think it's nerfed in PvP, I think it's 5% in PvP. But it's still good because it does some good path damage. Whenever it's going to be applied, it's going to be mattering, but whenever you're going to look on details, it feels like you're not doing too much damage with it. But every single thing is like working together with your whole kit, and maybe on the details it's not going to show you too much damage, but remember, like, Enhancement Shaman is a really proc based spec. Your Storm Strike has Storm Blast that is adding damage, you have Awakening Storms that is adding damage, you have Wind Fury, because if you're doing a Storm Strike you also have Wind Fury that is going to be procced on the enemy. You have your Storm Flurry as well, because it can proc on itself and it can keep on proccing on itself. You have obviously your Storm Strike damage itself, and that as a whole is doing okay damage. It just is like Storm Strike, if you look it at a vacuum, it doesn't do too much impressive damage, but you have to look at everything together, and it does add up at the end. Overall, it is the most fun hero taunt for Enhancement Shaman. I think it's also the most practical one. I would say that in any build you should kind of play Stormbringer. I have some totemic builds here and there. I'm going to show you and let you know how you can play with it, but it's not like reliable. It's very hard to make it work, because again, you need to like always play strategically. It feels like very PvE to me, and even in PvE I think Stormbringer is like a better like spec overall. So I think it just needs a rework at this point, but we'll have to see. Again, Tempest, this is one of the bigger ones. Like, Tempest summons a Nature Feral Spirit for 15 seconds. And like I said, with the Forset, every time you're going to summon a Feral Spirit, it's going to also summon a Feral Spirit with the Forset. And that is working with this as well. And then you have also your Feral Spirit, which is, whenever you're going to use Feral Spirit, is going to add up another Feral Spirit. So you have a lot of Feral Spirits. So your Elemental Blast is going to do a lot of damage. Your obviously, Storm Strike is going to do a bit more damage because of it being physical. There is a world where you could say, look, I'm going to take out 1 point in Elemental Assault or 1 point of Legacy of the Frost Witch to get like full Elemental Spirits. The issue is, you could have fire and you're not like playing Lava Lash. It kind of sucks. So you're going to have to like spam Elemental Blast to get like a bit of value. Frost is quite nice because again, your Frost Shock are doing quite good damage. We don't have Hailstorm, so your damage is quite capped as well. So for now I'm playing like this, right? Overall, I really like this hero taunts. Awakening Storms is like great, so I would always play that as well. And it does proc on your Storm Strike and Lightning Bolt, and on Tempest and on Chain Lightning, so it's going to be a good thing to play around with. I'm going to talk about the different builds right now. A big spoiler, Totemic is not that great, so those are the builds that I'm not really playing too much these days, but I'm going to show you anyways. So Totemic, there is Totemic with physical damage, so you're playing around your Storm Strike. The unfortunate part of a Totemic is either you're playing with every single talent possible, you have like a bloated talent tree which is like nonsensical, or you're playing like a very precise build which is the Lava Lash build, but then your Storm Strike is something you're never pressing, so you don't really have a lot of like value on Totemic Rebound, for example. This is annoying because you have your Surging Totem, and obviously it does damage. Whenever you're doing Ascendance, it does more damage, for example. If you're doing Sundering, it does also a lot of damage on the target. But you need to display the totem every single time like close to the target, because else you don't do any damage outside of your procs. So you have a proc with Totemic Rebound, which is Surging Bolt from your Storm Strike. You have your Whirling Elements. Obviously, whenever you're putting it, you're going to get more damage on your Storm Strike and also Cleave. Or you're going to have refund your CD on Sundering or Elemental Blast, or you're going to do more crit on your Lava Lash. Overall, I would say Earth Surge is quite nice because it does give you a bit of burst, so that's nice, but it's nowhere near the power of a Tempest, for example. And after you're not really playing Sundering for just the damage, you're playing for the for the disruption it can give versus casters, for example, or if you want to create some distance, or you want to stop something from the warrior or whatever, you can always use Sundering for that. But using it for purely damage is not always like an option. But yeah, it does some good damage in theory. If you're putting your totem like perfect at every single time, it can actually deal some good damage. But it's so impractical, and you're adding a keybind on a already very keybind heavy spec. I don't know you guys, but I want them to remove some of these keybinds bloat that we have with Enhancement Shaman. and adding a keybind extra onto the spec is not really something I would like to have. I want them to have, like, for example, surging totem to be something you're wearing on yourself. So you're putting surging totem, you have the totem on you, and whenever you're moving, there goes the surging totem. I think it makes more sense, but they are not doing that for now. So for now, it is not that great to me or in my eyes. This would be the build if I'm playing totemic physical build, which is the same build but with ascendance the same. So you could actually like have control on the amount of damage you're going to do, and the build would be basically you're popping your ascendance, feral spirits, doom winds with heroism, and then you're going to do a sundering, which is going to be additive. Surging totem is doing 150% more damage, but also we'll also do a earth surge, which is doing 200% more damage as well, and that together is doing some spaghettis. It is doing some good damage, but it's very hard because you have that many things you have to press and to remember, and you already have that many things to remember in the first place, which again, the hard part, you can learn it, but it's really clunky, and that's the sad part about it. If it was a bit more easy to use, for example, if you wear the totem on you and you can do all those things, it might be better, but you cannot wear it. You can put it, they can destroy it even, and that's it. You're going to be very sad whenever you're going to pop ascendance, for example. So this is the build. I'm not going to talk too much about it because there are other builds which are probably better, which is the Lava Lash Totemic build, and that is probably the one that most people are going to play. If they were playing Totemic, they would play this most likely, because you would have the better parts of Totemic, which is the Lava Lash Searing Totem, which is doing some pad damage. Don't accept it, like, don't be like surprised that it doesn't do too much damage, because it doesn't do too much damage. But the good thing is about this build is, with the current mastery I have, I can do a crit of a Lava Lash, for example, for 1 million. Again, it's not a given, it's increasing the critical strike chance of your Lava Lash by 25%, so it could also just not crit. But if you do crit, it's a 75% increased critical strike damage. And that would give you like a 1 million Lava Lash, which is, again, it doesn't happen that often. So if you're doing it, it does surprise, and it does feel like, oof, it's quite cool. But you're forgetting all the parts, which is the Surging Totem. I should put this instead, but yeah, I'm going to put that because I'm not playing with Ascendance either. But you have your Primordial Wave, you have your Storm Strike that you have to kind of hit, because again, it kind of increases the damage of the totem, so you should kind of go for that as well. You have your Wind Fury, because I did spec into Wind Fury to get some value out of it. It's strong in theory, and it does a lot of damage. Your Frost Shocks can also crit for massive amounts on this build, but it is like it has nothing to do with Totemic, because it doesn't really improve anything water, which is weird. You should also have like something about water, but it is not the case. But Frost Shock is doing some good damage with this build, obviously, because we are taking with like two stacks of Legacy of the Frost, which is again 25% increased damage on Frost, which helps with Frost Shock. It does damage. The thing is that I don't see people play with this whenever the Forset is actually suggesting you to play Stormbringer, because it adds more like feral spirits. So this is kind of clunky. It has massive keybind bloat. You have your Surging Totem. You will have to play Totemic Projection as well, because else you will lose a lot of value on your totem, like what's called the Surging Totem. You also have like Elemental Blast being very important. You still have Lightning Bolts that you need kind of to cast, although Elemental Blast is still like the center focus of Totemic. You have Lava Lash, you have Sundering that you need to use it like offensively. You have your Ice Strike that you need to use for your Frost Shock, so you will have to have 10 Maelstroms. You have to use Elemental Blast into an Ice Strike, into a Frost Shock, but don't forget about the Primordial Wave, don't forget about the Sundering, don't forget about the Feral Spirits, don't forget about Totemic, because again, if you're not using Surging Totem, what are you doing? So that's all the things that I'm thinking that I kind of don't like this build, but I'm going to show you guys. And if you would play this build, the PvP talents that you would play is Totem of Wrath with Stormweaver. I play it like in open world PvP. in random BGs as well, but I think in arenas or in social fall, if you can rely a bit more on your healer, you could play with grounding totem, burrow, even unleash shield, depending on like the situation in solo queue RPG where you can push people off ledges, for example. Electrocute is useless. Static field totem is nice, but it's nerfed, so it's not that great anymore. So that's it. Not that great. Now the build that people would play most likely are Lava Lash with Stormbringer. So you have the best of both worlds. It is also and still is a very keybind heavy spec. You have Lava Lash that you need to press, your Ice Strike that needs to be pressed, your Frost Shock needs to be utilized perfectly to have like the bigger crits, which are like around 800k, 850k, 900k. With the current mastery I have, you can do around those numbers. And obviously you kind of have to maintain the flame shocks, trying to spread it, trying to do your feral spirits at the right time, primordial wave at the right time. You have your tempest doing also some good damage. So again, elemental blast is something you want to press, but you also do want to press lightning bolt to get those awakening storms, because you're not pressing too many storm strikes. So obviously the only thing that are going to help you with those stacks are going to be lightning bolt or chain lightning or tempest, which is again something you're not pressing too much because you have elemental blast. So you see, it's like a lot of contrary things. And also Lava Lash has nothing to do with the build. It doesn't augment anything with this build. I think Stormbringer lacks the direction that should have normally, like Storm Strike or Lava Lash, and right now there is nothing from both sides except Awakening Storms, which is Storm Strike. I would like them to be a bit more precise with the builds that should go. For example, Totemic should be like the Lava Lash build, so you should even go away from the whole left side. And I would say Storm Strike should be Stormbringer, but again, they want to do a bit too much about everything, which is fine, but it's like not always going to be good. So this would be the build. People would play this and probably have success with. There is like a few talents that are a bit like swappable. You can go with Crash Lightning if you want to, for a bit more pad. Flurry if you really want to just have a passive and forget, because it's already very bloated. So if you add Crash Lightning, I don't know how many keybinds you have to press to do your whole rotation, but I think it's a lot. Yeah, so you have this, obviously. Then you have the Frost Shock build, which is the last build I'm going to talk about, if I'm not mistaken. This is the same build, but I sacrificed 3 points, right? This is the physical build, but I would say with the Frost Shock build, which is not playing around Lava Lash. Lava Lash is really just a filler. You don't even use it if you have like correct amount of haste, but you could use it. But you're sacrificing Flurry, you're sacrificing Storm's Wrath, you're sacrificing Storm Blast, but your Frost Shock damage is augmented by a lot. You have obviously your Hailstorm, which is something that is going to be quite interesting if you want to add up more damage, which is quite nice, but also more AoE damage. So if you're like in random BGs or in solo queue RPG, or even like in like melee lobbies in Soul Shuffle, you're going to have a lot of like spread damage, which can add up as well. This can give you 900k Frost Shocks pretty much, because you want to have 10 stacks of Maelstrom. So once you have 10 stacks of Maelstrom, you're going to use it. You're going to get the Legacy of the Frost Switch buff. You're also going to get the Hailstorm buff as well. Then you're going to Ice Strike, which is going to augment by even more your Frost Shock by 100%. And then you're going to Frost Shock. Obviously, you will have your Feral Spirits up, you're going to have your Heroism up, you're going to have your Badge up, for example, you're going to have your Doomans up. That's all going to be good damage as well, but your Frost Shock is going to be the icing on the cake. And then you have your Tempest, which conveniently is going to pop up for you, and then you're going to blast someone again with 10 Maelstrom. You again do the rinse and repeat with your Hailstorm, your Legacy of the Frost Switch, do a Frost Shock without Ice Strike because you don't have Ice Strike at that moment, and you're going to do a lot of damage because of that. And every time you're going to refund those Maelstrom, you're going to use it directly to get that damage up and running. The PvP talents that I would play right now would be Ride the Lightning with Shamanism with Stormweaver. Obviously, it is a lot of pad damage though. I can understand that some people would not play Ride the Lightning. I think in Soul Shuffle, there is no way you can play that without like really sacrificing a lot of utility. You could play with Grounding Totem, you can play with Unleash Shield, you can play with Burrow, depending on the situations. Burrow is quite nice versus physical damage dealers. Grounding Totem is always going to be nice versus casters. Unleash Shield, depending on situations, if you want to like push people off of ledges, for example, in solo queue RPG. Alright, so the main build, I'm still going to talk about the main build. This is the main build for me. This is like the top 1 build I'm playing right now. The top 2 would be the physical build without, like I said, it would be deeply rooted elements, and the third build would be the frost shock build for like more frost shock damage pretty much, but a bit less like physical storm strike damage. Everything will be listed in the description, not the description but in the comments, so if you want to like paste it and like have it as well, like me, for example, those 6 builds, you can always switch up whenever you want, and it will be also with the hero turns as well, if I'm not mistaken, so you can have like everything set up however you want. Now let's talk about the PvP turns. Totem of Wrath is something you kind of want to play if you're like playing with Primordial Wave, because it adds up more damage, but obviously Enhancement Shaman wants the utility, you want to be more tanky, and you're already not that tanky, so you're going to play around Grounding Totem, Counter-Strike Totem, Unleash Shield, Burrow, and sometimes Static Field Totem. It will depend on the situation. Counter-Strike Totem is fantastic if you're doing a soul shuffle and you see them never destroying it, then you should keep on playing it. If at the first round you see no damage from Counter-Strike Totem, just switch it out for something else. Stormweaver is a fantastic PvP talent for open world PvP. How many times do I win a 1v2 because of Stormweaver, or how many times do I survive a 1v5 like very long because I have my trinket, I have like my defensives, and I can always heal myself up. That's happening as well. Obviously those 5 people were not that geared, but it's still possible. Like you feel like a raid boss pretty much. And then you have also your benefits from again being a 1v1 god with it. Like this is giving you like free heals pretty much, and you don't sacrifice any damage. The only counterpart is you cannot use your normal Maelstrom weapons for your healing, so you have to spend Maelstrom on damage before you can have an instant heal. So it's very clunky on that department. It should maybe change a bit, but it's not the case, which I understand, because then it would be a bit more busted, I think. But this is the counterpart. You need to damage first and then heal yourself. And if sometimes you don't have any GCD to spare to heal yourself, you kind of have to press something, or you kind of have to cast that heal to survive. It's not always like easy. Heroism is like shamanism is like pretty much like a go-to to me. Like I like the mini PI I give to my ally, to myself. It's such a clutch talent. I always play with this. It's also very fun as well, and it could be on the class tree for everyone, to be fair, because Elemental Shaman has that, Enhancement Shaman has that, Restoration Shaman doesn't have that, but should maybe have that to get a bit more utility, and it could be very fun to play around with. Like replace the normal heroism with shamanism, for example, to like have a choice node, for example. It could be nice to play around. Ride the Lightning is something I play. It's pad, but I would say in like solo queue RPG or solo queue RPG or solo shuffle, I think I'll like most of the time I will be playing Grounding Totem or Burrow. Those 2 are the options I would go. And Counter-Strike Totem will test people with it, and if they don't destroy it, I will be playing that every single round. If they do destroy that, well, then I will just play something else, for example. Burrow, very strong. Just wish it was on the class tree though. Electrocute, useless, unfortunately. It has to be at least 50 times stronger to become way better. But right now it is not. Like it's not like worth the GCD, like not the PvP talent, because your GCD is going to be spent on it. You want to have greater purge or purge, but it's on 100k over 3 seconds on a 4 million HP pool. It's not going to help. If it was every 3 seconds, like every second though, for example 100k, 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 which is 300k, that would be decent, but that's not the case right now. Those are the PvP talents I wanted to discuss though. Now let's talk about 2v2, 3v3, and Soul Shuffle and Solo Queue RPG. 2v2, you want to pair up with a if you want to have fun, you want to pair up with a DPS. If you want to have more reliable but long games, you want to pair up with a healer. Ideally a healer that has some offensive capacities, for example Preservation Invoker, For example, disc priest, for example, a holy priest with a very aggressive build. That is possible. I would not really, or maybe with a mistweaver as well. Mistweaver can also. But you need to have like a very aggro healer, or else it will be a very much dampening game. Like it's heavy dampening, and dampening is not like a comfy place to be as Enhancement Shaman, because your healing really sucks at dampening. So that's one of the defensives that the devs think you have, but it's not really always the case. So yeah, dampening. 3v3 is the place you should go if you're a Enhancement Shaman. You want to play Turbo, which is with a Fury Warrior or an Arms Warrior. You could play with a Havoc Demon Hunter. You could play with a Windwalker. That's also quite nice, actually. Windwalker and Enhancement Shaman is a really great comp, but very squishy. You could also play with a BM Hunter, but these days BM Hunter are not that good. Beast Cleave, pretty much, but it's not that good right now. MM Hunter can be played, but it's very hard for the MM Hunter to do something though, so that's a bit scary for you. You could play with a caster, ideally with a caster that has a MS effect, so a demonology warlock, a shadow priest for example. That is possible, but I would suggest to play with a melee, so you can just like zug people and put heroism on your main DPS, and then you're going to destroy some people. Obviously those would be the comps I would be playing, especially with a warrior or a BM hunter. That's very fun. BM hunter unfortunately is not that good, so right now it will be a waiting time for that. Solo queue RPG, your goal is to be a disruptor and in team fights. 1v1s you're very strong, but you lack the CC. And whenever I'm saying lack CC, some people will say, oh, but how come it lacks CC? It has Hex, Lasso. That's cool, but in solo queue RPG you need to have at least a CC for more than 4 seconds, which is nice, which is Hex and Lasso. But Lasso is a CC that actually CCs you as well. You cannot cap something with Lasso. That's not possible. You can make someone cap for you, but you cannot lasso and then cap as well. That's not possible. You need to lasso and probably knock them off, and they have maybe the time to come back. And the only CC you have is Hex, which is reliable, but the problem is it can just trinket it. And since it's not like a CC that is spammable, it is just very hard to do a single like 1v1 cap. So the best ways you can actually be better for you is to be in a team fights, to have like impact and to destroy people, and you use your Hex for healers, and then like win those team fights for your team. You can also be a flag carrier. It's not the most effective one because you're not very defensive. You don't have a lot of like survivability, but it is still there as an option. Overall, solo queue RPG is not the forte for Enhancement Shaman, never really will be, but some maps are better than others, and that's more of a trial and error kind of phase. Everyone has to know what they need to do in solo queue RPGs, but I will be making videos a bit more precise for that in the future. And then in solo shuffle, I think it is quite fine for Enhancement Shaman. I do have hope. People put Enhancement Shaman way lower than what they should be, but it will be in a good state come season 1. I do believe. I'm a copium master, I'm a hopium master, but I do hope that it's going to be good. And I do feel like right now when I'm PvPing, I'm feeling good about Enhancement Shaman. And that's something coming from someone that makes like 5 negative videos every week about Enhancement Shaman. So it comes from a place of love, remember that. But it's still like mind-boggling how Enhancement Shaman is currently, and which I think would be better if it had a bit more direction towards like the design department. Now let's talk about one buff that you got in the War Within, which you already got in pre-patch, but now it is official in the War Within, which is Sky Fury. It's something you need to always use. If you're dying, you need to reapply, which is very annoying, but still do that because it's a very big buff. It's 2% mastery, which is big for you, not that big actually, because mastery is like a stat that adds up very quickly, but for some other specs it is actually massive. For example, 2% mastery on Shadow Priest is 3% more damage, pretty much, because they can just apply like 3 dots, and that would be like 2%, 2%, 2%, which is 6% more damage on the enemy. It's actually a very high value talent for them. It's also a high value talent for resto druids. It is a high value for a lot of specs. It is a very, very good raid buff and party buff. it would be very good for you as a soul shuffle machine, rest solo QRBG machine, 2v2 or 3v3. It's going to be always going to be very cool. But also the empowered their auto attacks to have 20% chance to instantly strike again. That's good for Fury Warriors, that's good for Arms Warriors, that's good for everyone that is melee. And even though melee is not really relevant anymore in retail, it's still kind of relevant sometimes, especially for Retribution Paladin, for example, whenever they get like the PvP talent. I think whenever they get like a lot of crits, they get like wings. I don't know how it's called anymore. I think reckoning or something like that. They can do a lot of damage with it as well. But yourself as well, you have more Wind Fury procs, and since you have also a talent that is giving you a third strike with Wind Fury weapon, it's going to be massive in the long run. It's a good raid buff, although whenever you're playing too much with it, it feels like it's a given. But try to play without it, try to play with it, and you will see the damage increase. Like it's pretty substantial actually. Always have the lightning shield up on you, earth shield up on you whenever you can. Although again, something you're going to forget once in a while, but try to do it on your ally as well. And your Wind Fury weapon on your main weapon, which you don't have a choice anyways, and Flame Tongue weapon on your offhand, which again you don't have any choice as well, but it still adds up 10% more damage, fire, frost in nature, so you should always do that. Like you can see it as 10% more mastery, half of the mastery, kinda. So it's good. Now let's talk about the rotation. Very interesting, right? I'm going to show you first if rotation with the physical build, because it has no ascendance. If I do that, I will not be able to change builds, but I'm going to show you right now. So this build, I think rotation is such a degree you need to have, because you need to understand that it doesn't have a set rotation. First and foremost, the issue is your Storm Strike is a reset. Your abilities, well, with Maelstrom weapons, whenever you get like Tempest at 10 stacks, you need to use it. You need to use it directly. If you have 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon, you need to use it directly. If you have Stormweaver, which is, again, for example, I'm going to use really quickly. I'm going to try to get like 5 stacks or 6 stacks. I get a lightning bolt. I have 6 stacks of Stormweaver. I kind of need to use it, because if I do something else with it, like it gets overwritten, for example. Like you see, I have 6 stacks. I'm going to use, for example, 7 stacks. It's going to override to 7. So it means that I have actually lost like 6 stacks of healing, which is kind of feels bad, because you did talent into it. So you kind of like screw yourself by not healing yourself. So you also need to think about that as well. Although it's very hard. Sometimes you don't want to heal because then you want to dual damage, just GCD still. But if you cannot heal yourself, you can still heal someone else. And trust me, like especially in solo RPG where dampening is just not a factor, doing a 2 million like off heal on someone is massive. Like it's 25% or 20% of someone's health, or even more. It could be even 30% depending on the health pool of the people. So it's really massive. So don't forget about that. So I'm going to try to explain it as much as I can. Pretty much, you want to deal damage with your Storm Strike and with your Ice Strike whenever you can, and do your Frost Strike whenever you can as well. Crash Lightning in AoE situations deals also more damage to your Storm Strike whenever you have Converging Storms. It's going to help you as well. The sound that you see above is a weak aura, which I'm going to talk about it at the end of the video. Whenever you have like 10 strikes, 10 Maelstrom, you need to use your Tempest, for example, or Lightning Bolt. You see, Tempest does a lot of damage. You get another stack of Tempest because you're very lucky. You have multiple stacks of Awakening Storms. And then you also have the proc of your Ascendance, which in turns will deal a lot of damage for you. And every time you get like your 10 Maelstroms, you're going to try to use it as well. This is like purely without CDs. I don't like press my Doom Winds, I don't press anything, and this is a lot of damage. Like this is me without pressing Feral Spirits, without pressing Doom Winds, without pressing Heroism. I have 400k single target damage without pressing any CDs. It's a lot, guys. 400k DPS is not to laugh at. This, if you're doing in PvP 400k DPS without using CDs, everyone would sign up right now. Tempest doing 1.6 million damage crit is quite nice. Again, on a dummy, it seems like it's inflated, but in PvP I do around 1.3 million crits, which is Something that is happening quite often because you have more crits playing Stormbringer as well. You have your lightning bolt doing like around 500k normal hits, a bit more depending on the target you're doing. Wind Fury attack obviously does more damage on a dummy, but on a PvP it's also going to be doing a lot of damage as well. Awakening Storms, which is something that adds up damage, like it's a proc 300k, so if you're doing a Storm Strike it's going to proc, boom, 300k for free. It does in PvP pretty much 200k, 250k crit, depending on who you're facing, obviously, if it has more versatility or more damage reduction. Storm Strike, 10 hits for 1.8 million damage. It's quite respectable, around 8% of your damage. Wind Strike obviously is a proc for your Ascendance, does also quite a lot of damage because you have like 2 strikes with it. You have the main hand and the offhand doing the damage for you. You have the Spirit Wolves, which again, I didn't press any of them, so that's purely from the Tempest proc. Then you have your Ice Strike doing some okay damage, Frost Strike doing some normal hits for 200k. Again, I didn't like do anything, it's like free damage pretty much, something you're always going to press to slow the target down. Storm Blast, which is like a proc coming from Storm Strike, so you could just add the 8% with the 3%, which is 11% of your damage, which is still respectable in my opinion. And then you have your Lightning Rod, which is pretty much passive damage, which is you're going to always have whenever you're going to do Elemental Blast or Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning or even your Tempest. That's all like increased damage for you. Now I'm going to show you how it is with like a burst rotation. You can see above of my camera, you can see the spells I'm using. So if you're interested, you can always do that as well. So I always put a flame shock on the enemy and try to get like as many like Maelstrom as I can. Once I have it, it's go time, Crash Lightning, Feral Spirits into Doom Winds with Heroism, which is a macro I have, and I'm going to deal damage as I can. And obviously try to do also some Elemental Blast whenever you can, because it adds more damage as well, because it gives you more mastery, crit or haste, and that is going to give you some good damage potential. And always press Feral Spirits whenever you can, because it does reset because of your Maelstrom weapons generation. Once you have your Tempest, this is go time, baby. You're going to do Tempest, boom, it's a lot of damage, and then you get an Ascendance proc, and then you're going to keep on pressing just one. I always press just one whenever I get like Ascendance, because it's a Wind Strike, it does a lot of damage. Press your Feral Spirits, and then you're going to do another go whatever you can with Tempest, boom, another go, and you're going to press another Lightning Bolt, and you're going to keep on doing this. You see the burst rotation and the consistent damage really depends on the procs of Ascendance. If you get a lot of procs, it's going to feel like you're going to be godlike. If you don't have a lot of procs, it's going to feel like it is a dead talent. It is just what it is RNG. But once you have like the damage, you can do another rotation with Doom Winds Heroism, and then it's a go time again. You have your Feral Spirit, and then you can just do a Sundering, for example, and that's it. That's a lot of damage. Like it's a consistent between 400k and 500k damage, which is quite nice, and it does help at the end of the day. We have Wind Fury attack being like top 1, Storm Strike being top 2, which is respectable to be fair. Storm Strike is like a spell that does get procs from other sources as well, so it's quite nice as well. Tempest, normal hits 1.54 million. It is quite nice, a lot of damage as well. If it crits, it would be 2 million pretty much. Lightning Bolt, critting and hit normal hitting. Your Spirit Wolves actually does 8% of your damage. It's not like fantastic, but it is still bad. You have Elemental Blast doing between 800 and 1 million if it's not critting, which is also quite respectable as well. I need to press it a bit more, but again, Awakening Storms procs from Lightning Bolt and Storm Strike and Chain Lightning or Tempest, and I wish it was also on Elemental Blast, so you could actually just press it without getting killed. But whenever you have like those procs and you get another Tempest, it is worth it at the end of the day. Ice Strike, Frost Strike doing some respectable damage, Fork Lightning because we're playing with the PvP talent, and that's overall a great damage spread in my opinion. Hopefully you did follow the presses I have above of my camera. Then I'm going to show you the Ascendance build, which is pretty much like the setup of the build. I'm going to show you that as well. It is already a very long video, but again, I want to show you guys everything I know and everything I can, so you can actually have all the weapons at your disposal to also do well in PvP. So what you want to do is, again, prepare with a Flame Shock, do Crash Lightning for example, Ice Strike. Once you have like 10 stacks, do Feral Spirits to get like 10 stacks, Doom Winds into Ascendance, and then it's a lot of damage. Like this is unhealable for most people, right? And just press 1 and then Feral Spirits. Press 1, for your storm strike, which is your wind strike pretty much, and it will proc your tempest as well. Look, you see the damage is really high, and that is a lot of damage. Like, people are not able to survive that if they're not pressing any CDs. Like, if they're like lazy and they feel like they're going to survive this, no, they're not going to survive this, especially in 1v1s or in social fall, wherever there is dampening. It's not going to be healable. The issue is it is a 3-minute CD. If it was a 2-minute CD, or if it had some like CD reduction or like a deeply rooted elements and ascendance portion, that would be actually very reliable damage. But unfortunately, it just is not the case. You see my healing, so I'm going to show you in PvP. And again, it's like not reduced in PvP, it's only augmented. For example, now I have 10 stacks. If I heal myself, it's a 2 million non-critical heal. So it does a lot. Like in solo RPGs, if you're doing that, people are not going to kill you, or people are not going to kill your ally. So try to do your off heals. If you have to put some macros, although it's a very keybind heavy spec, try to help your teammates with it. Now, if I can try to change the spec, hopefully I can. No, my sentence is on the CD, unfortunately. But I'm going to talk about, I can do this. Wait, I'm going to show you the Ascendance. Ascendance on the CD. I cannot switch. It's unfortunate. I'm going to show you the Frost Shock build without Ascendance, and I'm going to show you the Lava Lash build so I can gain a bit of time. This is the same build pretty much, but you have a bit less damage on your Storm Strike, and it has more damage on your Frost Shock. So I'm going to show you the normal build. Just get 10 stacks of your Maelstrom weapon. So for example, I have 10 stacks. Doom with Heroism, Ice Strike, do a Elemental Blast, for example, into a Frost Shock. It does 500k normal hit. It's a lot of dumb damage, and you can always like do that, right? It's really a lot of damage. Once you have that Feral Spirits up, boom, Ice Strike into your Frost Shock, 500k damage. Then you can do another Storm Strike, boom, another Frost Shock, does around 300k damage. And that's like a lot of like passive damage. It does this without Ascendance again. If you have Ascendance, it's way more damage. But it's a lot of consistent damage. People would say that it's a bad build, which I understand, because it's like a build that doesn't really resemble any other build. But this is like helping you with the Frost Shock damage without like sacrificing your keybinds, because you don't need to play around Lava Lash. This is like purely to add up Frost Shock damage to be like optimal, right? And to do more damage as well. So for example, if I show you guys here my spread, my Tempest does a lot of damage, Elemental Blast does a lot of damage, my Frost Shock did 600k like normal hit. If it was crit, it would be way higher. And again, in PvP, I already did a 900k critical hit on Frost Shock, so it's not something abnormal. My Wind Fury attack still does some okay damage, although I'm not really built for doing more Storm Strike damage for Wind Fury damage. You have your Lightning Bolt still being relevant, because it's still like a build around Stormbringer as well. Awakening Storms is still something you're going to proc, because you play still with around Storm Strike. Ice Strike is still there, and you have still a lot of damage based around your spells. It is just like spread a bit differently. Now I'm going to show you the Lava Lash build with Stormbringer, and then I'm going to show you the Lava Lash build with Totemic. But again, it's not something I'm going to enjoy too much, but I'm going to show you guys how it's played and how much damage it can do. It will be impressive, but it's not going to be very practical. So for this example, I will have to be here, because Primordial Wave doesn't work. For example, here, if I put Primordial Wave, it's only going to be Heroism, because it doesn't cast on the target for some reason. So I'm going to play here, and I'm going to Primordial Wave here to do the damage. So what you want to do is have a Flame Shock and then do a Lava Lash, which is going to obviously spread on as many targets as you can. It will do some good damage, pad damage. So your Flame Shock is going to be quite high on the list. Obviously your Frost Shock is still going to be very relevant, but whenever you're going to be in your go time, you're going to do your Elemental Blast whenever you can, and then you're going to Primordial Wave like the second target, Feral Spirits, and then you're going to go with as much damage as you can. And obviously always try to hit Lava Lash whenever you can. It is just unfortunate that Storm Strike is not something that you want to hit whenever you whenever you have it pop, because it does less damage with this build. But once you have like some time to do a Storm Strike, you should pop it to get a bit more damage on your Awakening Storms, for example, or have the possibility to deal more damage in general, right? And once you have your primordial wave of your heroism, which is normally you should have a heroism every 2 primordial wave, it's going to be quite good, and you can just spam Lava Lash. It does a lot of damage. You see, since you are in AoE, you're going to do more damage than on the previous build. But this is also a very much intense build. Like, this is like you have to play piano pretty much to have the best results with this. But obviously, I think most people are going to play this build because it is the known build for like Enhancement Shaman in Dragonflight. But I really enjoy like to play with the other build, like a physical build. But overall, I do feel like you have potential to have fun with this build. Still is a build that I'm playing too, so it's like in my top 4 builds. But I do prefer like the physical build because I'm playing haste. Haste is not bad on this build because you're pressing way more buttons, so GGCD is also lower with haste, which is always going to be welcome. But yeah, it's something you have to play around to. So for example, Lava Lash, you see I do a 875k crit. I think in PvP it's a bit lower anyways. Frost Shock, like I said, whenever it crits it's 960k. You have your Flame Shock doing some good pad damage. It is still good damage, but it's still pad. Lightning Bolt doing some good damage. Tempest, you see way less procs. It is what it is. Since you're not pressing too much Storm Strike, you're not getting a lot of Awakening Storms, so obviously we'll also have less Tempests. And since you want to press Elemental Blast a bit more, because this build is a bit more about Mastery, and Mastery is good for Elemental Blast, it does make that you don't really play around Stormbringer too much. So this is the build for Stormbringer with Lava Lash. Now I'm going to show you Lava Lash with Totemic. Also on like the PvP target dummy. So you see, if I put like the Totemic here, it's not going to deal damage, right? It normally should do like it does an AoE, and the AoE is very small, so I have to put it there to have some damage. So you always have to displace it. That's the annoying part of this build, and it does some okay pad damage. It also is surprisingly good burst, but it's very annoying to deal with. So what you want to do the ideal burst is to have like your primordial wave on this target, do your ascendance whenever you can. Where is my ascendance? I don't have ascendance here. Excuse me, I need to change something, which is pretty much this. I have to change that. To get my ascendance, I need to make space. Normally I had it, but I did change it for something else. So what you want to do is you want to press ascendance before you are going to do your sundering. So you're going to press your feral spirits, you're going to do flame shock, primordial wave, you're going to obviously press your ascendance, and then you're going to do a lot of damage with it, right? So this is like with your totem, it's going to be quite interesting. Unfortunately, ascendance is quite useless with this build, but this is like some good damage. Like, it's impressive damage, but very annoying because they're not going to stick there, right? Or they might even destroy the totem because it's only like a few HP. Like the HP is not that impressive. It's only like it's 3.4, like it's 3,400k HP, which is very much easily to kill because it has no versatility, it has no armor, so it's very easy to just destroy it. But you see, the Sturging Totem did some good damage on the Tremor, so it did like 350k normal hit. If it critted, it would be higher. Obviously, it would be a bit better if I didn't mess up the rotation. I think if I do just this with Sundering by itself, it does a lot of damage, right? It's 1.2 million together with Sundering, so it's good damage, but it's very clunky. I can show you the previous fight where I did show you the Lava Lash damage. It does 1 million damage crit, which is interesting, but very unpractical, and that's the problem I have with this build. If it was a bit more practical, it would be a bit more interesting, but it is not the case. So yeah, it was already a long video for the derotation. Hopefully you did understand something. If you were asking me which one is the most like favorite build for you, which one is working for you the best, it would be this one and the other build with deeply rooted elements. You could also play the Frost Shock build, which is also a funny build for me, like it's my third most used build right now. And I have my fourth build, which is the Lava Lash Stormbringer build. I think having too many keybinds is annoying, so that's why I prefer this build. But obviously, I can understand why people play the Lava Lash build. It's already 1 hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to explain you guys something very quickly, which is the macros. Doomwinds, put it with heroism PvP talent, which is if you put it on the book, for example, and you do a shift click, it's going to write cast heroism. Just do that so you can just not mess up. Because it's a PvP talent now, since you are using the PvP talent. I do use 14, that's the emplacement for the badge for me. It's always on the same place. So if you have badge, put it on 14 and it will use it. You can use your Blood Rage from Orcs. I don't know how it's called, but it's Blood Rage, I think. You can do that as well. I do also cast Ancestral Guidance because whenever I'm doing Doomwinds, I'm doing damage, so it means that it can convert into healing. It's a 2-minute CD, so every 2 Doomwinds it's going to use it pretty much. So the first one is going to use, the second one is not going to use, the third one is going to use. And Doomwinds is a 1-minute CD, Heroism is a 1 CD, 1-minute CD, the badge is a 1-minute CD, so it goes very well together. So I do play like that. I have a focus wind shear macro, very important. I have a focus hex macro, very important. You have, I have some help harm macros, for example. I have the purge one, which is a purify spirit, which is help purify spirit. So for example, if I target him, it's going to purify cleanse spirit. If I target the enemy, it's going to be greater purge. So it's working for purify spirit and the cleanse spirit, because it is depending on the spec you're playing. But it's very, very cool because it's only one button, and God knows Enhancement Shaman needs the most buttons out of all specs classes, so anything can help you. Oh, excuse me, I have the cleanse spirit one. So the cleanse spirit, because I have like 2 macros, one for restore and one for the Enhancement Shaman. So cleanse spirit with greater purge. Again, try to pause the video because I'm not writing everything. This is quite easy to write. If you have difficulties with this, let me know. I will just then copy and paste it on the comments for you guys. You can also have some help harm with healing surge and lightning bolt. But again, I don't use that as Enhancement Shaman because more often than not, I just doing healing and damage at the same time. So I'm not really targeting my allies too much to have like a help macro needed for that. So there is that. Again, hopefully you do learn something out of this. Some tips and tricks. Try to heal your allies. Try to use your displacement if you're playing your static field totem. If you're playing again correctly, you should hex as much as you can. You should play around your CDs. Try to use Doomwinds as a bait, so they're going to use their CDs, and then the next go you're going to do Doomwinds heroism with Ascendance, and at that moment it should die. So try to bait people with your 1-minute CDs because that's important. Don't use Ascendance directly if you feel like you're not getting any results with it. If you do, use it the first round, for example in Soul Shuffle, and you get results, keep on doing that. But if you get like Ascendance up and you feel like you didn't get anything out of the enemy because they know how to play around, then just try to bait something else with it, like for example your ally, to then have like a perfect Ascendance whenever they don't have a defensive. That is also a possibility. Roots very strong versus drag tiers like evokers because they cannot use any displacement. Very, very strong. Try to use your wind rush. Very, very utile. You have also your stone bulwark totem to give you a massive shield, which is unfortunately dispellable. So it's really crap. Unfortunately, it should be undispellable, but yeah, it's dispellable. So don't bother with it versus mages or priests, shamans, or even like evokers. Actually, don't bother with half of the classes or specs. It's going to be purged if you know what they're doing. Try to AoE as much as you can because it does give you more maelstrom and more damage. Heroism on your ally, it's very good. It's 20% increased haste, very, very good. And that's it. Again, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you did learn something. It has been a very long video. I wanted to talk about every single build. I wanted to show you every single rotation possible. I could also show you the physical build with like totemic, but it is kind of crap, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not talking too much about that as well, but I wanted to show you guys this is the possibility you can do. You can test it. It is going to feel okay, but in PvP totemic is not that great. So I think most people already know that right now, but I wanted to give you the weapons necessary to also forge yourself an opinion if you want to test it. Again, if you have any questions, I will always answer in the comment section below, at least for multiple months until I have like a new guide. Then I don't respond the previous guide, obviously, but I try to always like have it up to date. I'll be making a video about gems and embellishments in the future once we have season 1 out. I'll be making an update video if needed, if they do change something. So don't be scared about it. Weak aura, very important. Sorry I didn't show you guys. It is the maelstrom one. I'm going to post it in the description, which is like a sound effect and a trigger. Whenever it is like 10 stacks, it is going to trigger the sound effect, so you do know you have to press anything that does a maelstrom weapon spendage. So hopefully you did learn something. Again, thank you for watching this video. Really, I appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and we will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.